Hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome to our new episode from Pivot in Progress today. I'm your host, Arjun, and we are going to be covering a very new age topic that we are getting a lot of queries and interest on recently, which is all centered around how do people get into fractional operator, CXO roles, or become independent consultant. Perhaps you've been working in a full-time role in a 9 to 5 and you're thinking about transitioning to one of these more independent contractual roles, or perhaps you have already been in one of these roles but you're thinking about really growing your practice or your own solopreneur sort of a business. And so we have two terrific speakers who have a lot of experience in helping many other professionals do this kind of independent consulting and fractional work. They are just backstage, and I'll be bringing them up here with me in a matter of seconds. All right, great. So, welcome again, Shanti and Vineet. Thank you so much for making time for this. How are you both doing?
Wonderful. Thank you for inviting me, Arjun.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Arjun. Nice to meet you, Shanti, and good to be here. Let's hope this conversation is engaging and give a lot of information to the people, the listeners who are there
Yeah.
on this platform.
I'm sure it will. Between the two of you, I feel there is almost 40 years experience in help or more in
Yeah.
helping so many individuals, get to fractional and independent consultant roles. So excited to dive into that. Just before we do that, perhaps we can do a quick round of intros. I'll go first, and then I'll turn it over to Shanti, you, and then Vineet. So, for those who don't know me, my name is Arjun, and I'm the founder at Pivot. What we do at Pivot is help mid and senior career professionals make different type of inflection point transitions when they are, not just job hopping, but really looking to change some core element of their profile. Um, and we started this back in 2020. Today, we have worked with over 10,000 professionals across different domains and industries. I myself have spent my career working both in US and in India, both in HR consulting and as a founder at Pivot. I'll talk more about what we do and how the journey has been during the course of this conversation. But for now, I'll turn it over to Shanti. Shanti, thanks again for joining. And if you could just briefly tell us about your background and what you do today, that would be great.
Thank you, Arjun. I've had a 4-decade-long career in the HR space, both across industry and consulting. And now, my first an entrepreneurial venture, which started in 2023 post-retirement from the consulting firm Mercer, where I was partner in India business leader for the HR consulting practice for about 7 years. I worked with Mercer for 18 years. Prior to that, I worked across industry and consulting in Singapore and in the US before deciding to come back to India, and I live in Bangalore, Arjun. So happy to share my experiences and really excited to be part of this talk. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. And we'll turn it over to Vineet. Vineet, please could you share a little bit about yourself as well?
So, I'm a marketing brand communications guy by profession, and about 10 years back, I quit uh, my job in which I had been heading the marketing functions for AMD, SanDisk, and Tata Power, etc. Right, and I jumped into this industry called fractionals or gig economy at the very senior level way back in 2015 when this word called fractional was not even understood properly, and people will only understand the word consulting. So currently we are the largest and the first platform in India where more
Mhm.
than 700 professionals, and only C level, we only operate at C level, we don't operate at mid and junior level at all, who are with us, and they are available to take up fractional interim or consulting assignments.
Hmm. Got it. Okay, no, great. So I think both of you are currently doing exactly what the topic of the day is. So I'm very glad to have you both. Just what we can start with is I always start with the key reason that people jump into something like this. So the why behind most people today considering a fractional consulting or independent consulting kind of roles. Perhaps we can start off with that because what I've seen is at least since COVID, it has increased quite a bit. Wherein earlier, people used to think mostly in binary options where you were either working in full-time roles or you would retire and perhaps do something in a more informal capacity where you're advising certain companies, but nothing formalized per se. Today we are seeing that transition massively into more formalized of these part-time gigs and freelance and independent consulting opportunities. Both of you are building platforms that have helped many professionals achieve the same. So from your perspective, how is this shift happening? Why are more and more people even starting to think about fractional roles? Shanti, will start with you and then turn it over to Vineet.
Sure, sure. So I think the factors are, both internal as well as marketplace driven. Let me start with the internal factors. Um, Recently, last actually Saturday, we partnered with an organization called Agara Walks. Agara is a lake in my neighborhood in Bangalore, and we partnered with Agara Walks really to talk about fractional roles. And we were expecting, because second careers is all about people with experience and expertise, and typically we look at people with 20 plus years of experience joining our platform for fractional roles and full-time roles as well. We were expecting to see a bunch of people turn up who had 20 plus years of experience. We saw people with 5 years of experience. Some were really just into the workforce for 2 years. One had just come from Kashmir looking for fractional work just out of college. So I think it is one an internal need, right? And the internal need is driven by many things. Part of it, especially people who've had a long career, have experienced financial stability and have built that nest egg for themselves, saying, I have the freedom to pursue what I want to do, and I want to do multiple things. I want to live what we are beginning to refer to as a portfolio life, which means do
Mhm.
multiple things. So, for part of the time, I want to use my professional experience, and I'd like to do that as an independent consultant and choose my timings and projects, etc., or a fractional role where a company picks me up as part of their leadership team, but it's only part time, right? So that's one group of people, those who have the privilege of saying, financial independence already achieved, and I'm not doing it for the money. There's a large group of people who are in the middle, who are getting affected by the layoffs and the external market circumstances. Their skills are no longer needed full time in organizations. Part of the work that they did earlier is being done now by technology. But still, a lot of their perspectives and some parts of their task are still very relevant. So that's the external marketplace that's dictating why people are turning to fractional or independent consulting roles. They're doing a fraction of what they did earlier, in other words. The third is the young crowd, which is saying, I want to do multiple things. I can build my life over a period of time. I actually want to, over a period of time, just manage my own time, manage my own finances. And so I want to look at fractional as one way to get to some goals that I have set, financial goals that I've set. But more importantly, I want to become a solopreneur. So different reasons why I think people are looking at opportunities that are not the traditional full-time work format.
Got it. No, very interesting. The third one that you mentioned is something that is relatively less understood in the typical fractional consulting world, even though we have always heard of freelancers. But usually those are folks seen at very junior levels who are, not able to always find a full-time role. So they end up kind of, just by default doing a gig here, a gig there. But it sounds like, Shanti, you're saying that there are a lot of youngsters as well who are deliberately planning a more portfolio career sort of an approach. Um,
Yeah.
I would love to double tap on that in the next topic that we are going to cover here. But for now, I'll turn it over to Vineet. I think Vineet, same question for you. What are the key reasons you're seeing that people are transitioning to fractional and independent consulting roles?
So, I would not repeat. I think I 100% agree with what Shanti has said. So I will not repeat that. I'll probably add on to something basis on our
Sure.
experience, because we started when in 2015, when this thing never understood. The people only understood the word called consulting, and today also consulting means a very different connotation. In fact, in Cohire we have four different products. One is interim, one is fractional, third is consulting, and fourth is mentoring slash advising. And
Hmm.
so I will, put this before COVID and after COVID. Before COVID,
Hmm.
there was no inherent need, because people said, we have to work, you know, what COVID have taught the people is saying that work is not the end, right? You have to also make sure that you as an individual are important. How long can you be in the part of that rat race? And before COVID, I really had to convince people saying that, look at this option as a as a career. You can still earn decent amount of money, and be but they were very reluctant. But the moment COVID hit, I think a lot of people, especially at the senior level, they thought that it's not always 9 to 5, as you rightly said. There is also life beyond that, and still be paying. It's not that
Mhm.
you're financially independent and you start doing it because you want to give back to the society and all that. Let it be commercial, right? So that is one reason that of uptake has gone, as what Shanti ma'am rightly said, inherent. But I'll give you two big reasons, because our pool is almost like 700 plus. Now, for women, they say that we have given our prime time to corporate job. Now we want to be a slightly more relaxed. We don't want to
Mhm.
work 18 hours, 15 hours. I want to spend some time with the family. So I want just one assignment where I can give 2 or 3 days in a week and rest of the days is mine. So for women, this is a primary objective of leaving the corporate job and moving into this. For men, majority we've done, we have a full amount of research behind that. Majority of the people feel that they have hit a ceiling. For example, if you are a CTO or a CFO or a CHR or a CPO or a CISO or a CIO,
Mhm.
they feel that they have hit a ceiling, because not everybody is going to become a CEO or a COO. Let's say if there are 10 CXOs, only one will qualify, or maximum two. I mean, CEO minus one.
Right.
So they know that they have hit a ceiling. Even if they move to another company, they will probably, the name or designation will change, but work more or less remains the same, right?
Mhm.
The flavor of work, the quantum of work may increase if you're a bigger company, or decrease if it's a lesser company, right? So that is one of the bigger reasons for males to jump into
Got
that.
it.
And
Mhm.
we are also very clear in the fact that Mr. Prakash saying that we majority of these 700 people, I think only handful will be above 60. The sweet spot for us is 48 to 56. That's a sweet spot.
Wow. Very precise. Okay.
Very
Right.
precise. Why? Because uh, for us, CXO doesn't mean 20 years or 25 or 30 years of experience. CXO means that you should have been in a leadership position and solved a
Hmm.
problem, a complex problem, because you will be hired not because of your age, you will be hired because of your complex problem solving skill, because the company come to us for hiring a fractional engineer because they have a problem.
Hmm.
If there
Got
is
it.
a inherent need of thing, they will go for employment. They will come to you, not to us. But if there's a problem that needs to be solved, so they need a doctor for that problem. You better be a good doctor.
Right. Right.
That
So,
other
yeah, just a quick follow-up on that, Vinny, because I think you've added some, very good complementary points to what Shanti has shared.
yeah.
But one thing that we have not addressed is the other side of the table. So right now we are thinking about the professionals who are jumping into these kind of roles, and that reasoning is becoming more and more clear as both of you are sharing your understanding of this. What is happening on the other side of the table, where organizations are becoming more and more uh, comfortable with having these contractual relationships with their workforce, especially, I mean, if it is senior level, then that but also we have seen, as Shanti was pointing out, even at a junior or mid level, there are many youngsters perhaps in their 20s or 30s who are thinking about similar freelancing gigs and careers. So if there was no appetite on the other side of the table, we would not see such boom happen over the last few years. So why is this there a growing appetite from companies around this right now?
Let me answer that. Maybe then Shanti man can add
Sure,
on to
sure.
that.
Yeah, please go ahead.
See, I would give a very good connotation here, saying that what in 2011-12, when e-commerce came into India, the acceptance was very, very low, right? Because by nature, if you have to buy something, the first thing that will come into your mind is, let's go to the shop and buy, like it's a weekend shopping. So it's a behavior change, right?
Hmm.
So similarly here for the corporates also, it's a very big behavior change, because when they feel the need of a very senior person in the organization, I always counsel every very senior, whether it is a CEO or a CHRO, just pause for 5 minutes and think whether you would need this guy for next 2 years. If you need this
Mhm.
guy for next years, go for employment, right? But you think maybe after 6 months or 8 months or 1 year, if this position you don't need or becomes redundant or possibly going to be redundant, or you're not very sure, then try interim or fractional, because from converting fractional and interim to employment is very easy.
Mhm.
Correct. Whereas the other way is next to impossible,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So it's a behavior change, right? And again, I will go back to the COVID era. A lot of companies in COVID saw that everybody was doing moonlighting. So
Yeah.
they accepted this fact, saying that, I mean, you will be very surprised. Before COVID, when I used to go to the companies say, oh, this guy will not come to the office. How will the work happen? I said, why does the person need to come to the office to work? But COVID actually taught companies saying that you can still have the same level of productivity or even more, even if the guy is not in the office. So that
Right.
helped. So that
Right.
behavior change was very important. And now slowly, I will still not say it is as acceptable as it is in Europe and US, because their thinking is
Mhm.
very lean and mean. In India, we still, especially in the Indian-owned companies or family-owned businesses and mid-sized organizations from 1,000 crores to 5,000 crores, there's still a blockage in terms of thinking. They still feel, कि boss, अगर this guy is not in front of me, how they still feel very comfortable talking face to face rather than doing this virtual meeting that we are doing right now, right?
Right.
So this,
Right. Makes
this
sense.
change is started to happen. It's
Mhm.
just at a cusp when it'll turn the tables. But yes, I see every 6 months. I mean, as of I'll tell you, we only get inbound inquiries right now. We have never gone out and fetched for inquiries for the last 2 years. So
Wow.
that maybe thing. So maybe Shanti man can add on to this.
Yeah, absolutely. Shanti, please go ahead to share your thoughts. Just one point that I want to ask you, Shanti, which if you can address in your comments. What are the key benefits to the organization also? Like, let's say
Yeah.
there are certain HR professionals who are currently listening to us or might listen to us later. How can they also think about optimizing their workforce strategy using such, freelance and fractional professionals?
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you. I think Vinit, first of all, I think what you said is music to my ears, because you said that you're actually getting inbound inquiries, which means, the market is definitely opening up. And I absolutely agree that the market in India is still not as open to the idea of fractional or freelance as the other Western markets are. In my mind, or my experience, the biggest driver for fractional in India has been how much can an organization afford to pay a CXO. Right?
Hmm.
And one of the cases I want to reference here is a not-for-profit organization that was looking for a CFO, and uh, had a certain budget, but they said that fractional is good enough for this particular role for us. And we could find somebody for whom, again, moving to from corporate to the social sector and having impact was the most important driver. He did not mind the fractional nature of the work, as well as compromising on the pay. So that's, I think, a big driver. I'm going to excuse myself for a minute. This
Sure,
I
sure,
just need
sure.
to get some water for myself.
So let me fill in the time being Arjun. See, I think a lot of companies, if this, one of the reasons why I always ask this company, whenever the inquiry comes in, and Arjun, I always ask him, how would you find us? So first of all, they say that we found you on all the LLMs and all that. But
Hmm.
one of the very good things that I hear from you saying that they didn't knew that this kind of platform exists in India
Hmm.
for them to even explore. See, they may not land up actually hiring a fractional, which in
Hmm.
50% of the case it doesn't happen that. But at
Right.
least this is something which I hear. So over to you, Shanti ma'am.
I'm sorry about that. I think also from an HR person's perspective, right? Consider the various scenarios under which a fractional or a freelance person could come in. You have an experienced, colleague of yours going out on maternity leave or wellness leave for 6 months, right? Uh,
Mhm.
typically what the organization tends to do is looks at somebody from the team or opens up a short-term position, brings in someone. Person will not hit the ground running because one, they may not have the same skill set. Second is, they may also wonder what's going to happen when the permanent person comes back. Right? What's going to happen to me? The permanent position who's going on leave, an emergency sort of a leave, is wondering what's going to happen to me when I go back. Will the new person who's taken my role be available? I think perfect situations for an organization to try the freelance route there and say, hey, I have got an experienced, say, cybersecurity professional. My cybersecurity leaders taken 4 months off for some personal, wellness issues. Can somebody come from the outside? It's a nice, neat skill that comes in, from an expert. Use them as a freelancer. They hit the ground running. They're in there for 4 months. The person goes away. The permanent employee comes back. There's no disruption to the rest of the team. I think it's a great value proposition to try and use, especially the independent consultant model in such situations. Right? Fractional, by definition, Arjun is somebody who is like part of the core leadership team, but works part of the time only. So that might not work in the case of these wellness breaks, but definitely an independent consultant could work. Right? And there are some roles, and perhaps Vineet can throw some light on it, where you actually don't need a full-time person, but you need that skill or capability today. You don't need it in a full-time role. You want that member to be a key member of your leadership team. Uh, and that's a perfect role for a perfect opportunity for bringing a fractional professional or a fractional expert into the organization.
Right. Vineet, would you want to add anything on that front that Shanti just mentioned?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what Shanti ma'am has said regarding that short breaks. See, I tell you, go back to my question in the my own statement saying that we have three different products, four different: fractional, interim, consulting, and mentoring advising. So, whenever company comes to us, we always ask, what is the problem statement, right? And how is the problem statement going to be addressed, right? So, for example, if there is a finance team already, and we have many live examples, I guess I can, because we work more than 100 companies, right? So, including the listed companies, including the MNCs, including the startups, including the family-owned businesses, right? So, if you already have a big finance team, which is well-oiled machinery, they are working perfectly fine. The only thing that is lacking in that organization is the maturity, right? So
Mhm.
then we say, don't go for fractional, go for consulting, because a
Right.
CFO will come, he will guide the team, and the team will do the business. You don't need a person to be sitting on their head and working as a manager for them, right? But look at the other scenario where there is a very less team, one or two, three member team. There is
Mhm.
lot of gaps in the finance, not only from the corporate strategy point of view, but from the day-to-day function. Then we say, go for a fractional CFO, because you are a 100 crore company or a 200 crore company. You can't even afford a CFO, full-fledged CFO, 1.5 to 2 CR. Plus, he will not have enough and more work to function from Monday to Friday, right? In
Mhm.
fractional, our proposition to companies are, he will take ownership.
Mhm.
He will be responsible for the result, whether credit or debit. He is not. Whereas in consulting, he will not be responsible for the result. He will only be a guiding. I mean,
Mhm.
consulting as a dictionary meaning.
Right.
Correct. Similarly, for interim, I'll tell you one listed company in Bombay, right? Their CFO resigned. Now, as per the SEBI guidelines, you can't have a listed company without a CFO. So they came to us saying that it'll take us 6 to 9 months to find a CFO,
Mhm.
because you start the
Mhm.
process, 2 or 3 months of interview time, because that's an MNC. Then the
Right.
other guy will have minimum 3 months of notice period. So by the time he will come, it will be 7 8 months. I need a CFO next 15 days as an interim measure. We got him a CFO in the next 15 days. He started working. Everything was managed. The board meetings, everything was managed. Their CFO came in. 1 month of overlap. Our interim CFO handshake out. So this is a full
Mhm.
time arrangement. Because in
Got
this
it.
case, the guy has to work Monday to Friday because it's a big MNC, right?
Mhm.
$50 billion business, right? So you will have enough and more work. In fact, the interim CFO saying that it seems like I am working 7 days in a week. I said, you signed for it, so you can't complain, right?
Right. No,
Right. So
very.
these are different scenarios.
Right. No, very interesting. I mean, I'm happy to hear that it's not just one cost optimization requirement, because that's the perception around the fact that, hey, you know what, most organizations are only doing this for cost optimization and containment purpose. But I think there are many other reasons,
So I will give
especially in the
you.
West, perhaps there are more reasons. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
But in startups and mid-sized organization, cost is a major factor, not
Sure.
in the other. So cost definitely is a factor. It depends on what level of companies. Like,
Hmm.
as I just said, if you're a 100, 200 crore company, I don't think so. This guy can even look at hiring a 1.5 to 2 CR
Right.
CXO level guy.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, let's change gears a little bit, and I want to make this entire discussion as practically advantageous for people who are listening to us. Meaning, like, key steps they can take to kick off such a fractional or freelance career for themselves. So one of the first things that I want to talk about is, how do you identify your positioning in the market? Because see, what you might have been doing in your full time role previously might not necessarily be the exact same set of services or consulting that you want to provide as a fractional person or a freelance, right? um, and also, usually when you're thinking about full-time roles and you've been at an organization for some time, you actually stop even thinking about your positioning in the market, because you're already working, so it becomes kind of like status quo, right? So when you're navigating this kind of a change, what I want to understand, and Shanti, we'll start with you on this one if that's okay. What I want to understand is, how does a person sort of introspect or do certain other things to understand their place in the market, so that the right kind of organizations are able to find them and get them on board for their services.
Let me start with the independent consulting opportunities first, Arjun. I think when somebody is trying to move out of a corporate role and become an independent consultant, um, the biggest introspection one has to do is, what am I known for? What are the things that I'm good at? What is it that my network of friends or potential customers will endorse me for, right?
Mhm.
So I think that exploration or introspection is extremely important, and one can do that, just sitting and doing an exercise of what are my strengths and what have I done before, forgetting about the titles and the jobs that they've done, but breaking it down into tasks that they're good at, and skill sets perhaps that they've used. It could also come through actually speaking to your network of colleagues. It could be, if you've been in external client facing roles, to your clients and finding out what did they value about you and so on. So some amount of data gathering on yourself.
Mhm.
Surprisingly, very interesting way to discover what you might be known outside for is to just put your name. A simple thing is to just do a Google search on your name, and it's amazing the kind of things that come up, right? And there is a pattern that emerges out of it. So, for example, if I put my name in now, Arjun, a lot of it is about compensation and benefits, and more recently, it's about second careers, right? So those two themes will come up. So it's a good way to say, hey, this is what I'm known in the market for, and then start the introspection, saying, is this what I want to do? Right? I have the
Mhm.
skill sets and known, is this what I want to do? And then perhaps even seeking a mentor or a coach to figure out, if you're going into a new area, not something that you're known for or have the skill set for, how do I bridge that gap? Because I want to move from, say, compensation and benefits to maybe coaching. How do I become a
Mhm.
coach? Right? So I think exploring that, I think, is going to be very, very key in terms of identifying what to do. First steps.
Mhm.
Beyond that, I think the first few opportunities will come through the network that trusts you. Whatever you might try to do to build your brand image, through social media, whatever may be the things, the first few people who will trust you will be the people who know you. And so reaching out to your network of sponsors for opportunities seems like the way many independent consultants kickstart their career.
Mhm.
uh, and then that then leads to, okay, I've got success stories now let me build my brand presence on social media and networks and so on. So those two three things seem like the way an independent consulting career can be kicked off.
Got it. Got it. So know what you're good at, and then, I mean, what I really like, which is a very very concrete tip here is you can even Google yourself or try to find your sort of digital footprint and see like what do people know you for in your career, because many of them are senior professionals with storied career. And I think the other part which you're talking about, which is building on top of your network when you're kicking things off, I think all valid points. Vineet, what I would like to understand, similar question but slightly different angle here is, let's say I'm thinking about fractional roles versus consulting roles, or perhaps certain other type of arrangements as well. So first thing is defining my positioning, meaning how and why should companies hire me, right? But the second thing is also, now you have to build your book of business, or you have to start your career in that field. So if you can cover both angles, right? Number one is the positioning angle, and the second is how do you get more and more visibility within the right ecosystems when you're kicking this off. Shanti made a valid point about using your network, but it is possible that sometimes your network is not big enough, or they are not hiring for the kind of roles that you're, the fractional roles or freelance roles that you're targeting, because that's, frankly speaking, still not mainstream in India market at least. So you might, at least we see a lot of folks who come to us also from time to time asking for such opportunities. We don't have a steady set of organizations who are saying give me fractional candidates right away. So it's not that easy to leverage your own network always. So how do you really get started if you are leveraging avenues outside of your network as well? If you could cover the positioning on this angle, that'd be great.
So actually, I can give an answer in one line. This is precisely what co-hire is. Okay, so that's exactly
Mhm.
what we do, because we have very stringent procedure of somebody who coming and registering with us, and we are very stringent again on the companies to evaluate the criteria whether they actually need a fraction or not. Because trust me, Arjun, most of the companies don't even realize when we
Hmm.
talk to them that the work that they're looking for can be done by a mid-level or junior level guy. Why do you need a see? Please understand, even if you are taking a fractional CTO, you have to give him a work of a CTO. You cannot give him a work of a solutions architect.
Right.
Pardon my language for that, right? So coming
Right.
back to your questions, number one, and I will tell you our way of think, and this also will help lot of audiences to figure it out. First and foremost is clarity. The first question that we ask: are you 110% sure that you will not go back to the employment world? Because
Hmm.
if you're saying, a lot of people say that, what we need, I'm taking a break for a year, I would want to test. I said, no, you please relax at home. Once you're very clear, you want to go back to the employment world, most welcome, but you can't be doing this or that. Don't take fractional as a side dish.
Hmm.
If you want to make a career, be it may so happen after 2, 3, or 4 years, you may not be successful, perfectly fine.
Right.
But it's like an entrepreneurship, right? When you quit a job, you will go all out to become an entrepreneur. You will not say, okay, ma'am, I will work also, I'll do an entrepreneurship. No, it doesn't happen like that. And you set up a deadline that I'll try and work for 2 years. But even if if you feel that a small iota of doubt is there in the mind of an expert, we always advise him, take your time, be calm, take a month, think about it. Otherwise, you will be utter failure. Reason being, again, practical experience, Arjun. Let's say you get a fractional assignment, it will always be in your mind. Oh, yeah, I might be getting a full time job. I might be happy there and this. So the moment that doubt comes, I can give it in writing. You're an utter failure in the fractional consulting world. That's point number one.
Hmm.
Point number two, if we also ask this question, do you have a second income at house?
Hmm.
If you have a second income, then your decision becomes very easy. You can probably have a better runway. You should be financially independent, because at the end of the day, Arjun, you've been in the recruitment world. One of the reasons why people work is money, right?
Hmm.
Now, in fractional world, let's say you are at X amount of salary. The moment you jump into the fractional world, you will not get X amount same. And there is also a lot of uncertainty. You cannot guarantee that you will get assignments all throughout. There will be
Hmm.
gaps. There will be companies here, unlike US and Europe, where you get premium for being fraction. Unfortunately, in India, you may not get premium.
Hmm.
The company say, oh, if this guy is fractional, I'll pay 50% of his salary. That's how the conversation starts. Correct? So
Right.
you have to be very well cushioned to take those uncertainties.
Right.
And I
Right.
have actually told people, if you have a loan, be
Mm-hmm.
double careful of becoming a fractional, because I cannot guarantee work.
Mm-hmm.
I will get an assignment, we'll give it to you, right? But if you don't get an assignment, I can't tell you if you get an assignment. So that is the point number two. Second income slash finance. Third is, you cannot be generalist.
Mm.
In my friend circle, I know he's a good marketing guy. I When I gave an introduction that I'm a marketing brand communications guy, there are five verticals within marketing, and I'm not good at all five, right?
Right.
Similarly, when somebody says I'm a technologist, I said, what technologist? Oh, I'm an AI, artificial intelligence expert. I said, define. What in artificial intelligence can you do? Are you good in LLMs, creating LLMs? Are you good in coding? Are you good in what are you good in?
Mm-hmm.
Because companies will never come to take journalists. Interim, they will come and take journalists because they have to fill the position for a short term,
Mm-hmm.
right? In finance, are you a CFA or corporate strategy, corporate finance, or day-to-day financing? Correct.
Mm.
HR, are you HRBP person, HR tech person, people management? What kind of an HR?
Right.
Because so in your, even if you're an individual, you need to highlight that one or two skills that is there, you will solve even when you are sleeping.
Right.
So you can't
Yeah,
say
I
I'm a
think
tech.
that's Yeah, no, that's a very valid, I mean, all valid points. And I think I really do want to double tap on this, generalist versus kind of more specialized and more targeted kind of a profile positioning that you should go for. Definitely makes a lot of sense. By the way, we are also starting to get a few questions from our audience. So I know I have not talked directly to the audience. So, folks, thank you firstly for joining us. And please do continue to share your questions. We will be taking them up with both Vineet and Shanti very soon. Um, just want to, ask one more question before we, start taking up the audience's Q&A here, which is, a lot of times we have heard this. I mean, Vineet, very happy to see you and, folks at Second Careers build platforms to facilitate these kind of, opportunities for many professionals. But a lot of times we do hear from people, hey, I want to be able to use my network, use my brand to be able to draw opportunities towards me in an inbound fashion, like similar to how Vineet you might be doing it for your business. Um, are there certain ways, and I think Shanti, you had also referred to this earlier about brand building on social media once you have some initial experience. But what are some of the common, successful strategies that you have seen around people utilizing their existing network and brand to not just get the initial clients but to be able to build a presence in the right ecosystem so that when some company is thinking about hiring, let's say, a fractional or a freelancer, your name comes up. Are there some common tactics that work well in doing that? Shanti, we'll start with you if that's okay.
Yeah, no, I have very simple responses to this, Arjun, and maybe Vineet will have some more, to share. I think, I mean, I completely agree with the point that Vineet made. Whether you're in a fractional role or in an independent consulting role, in fact, more so in an independent consulting role, what you are actually, the value proposition you're offering is expertise. It's not the generalist skill set, right? That expertise. And it actually relates to one of the questions I saw Ganesh ask on the side. It's about, how do you establish authority and influence when you're only engaged part-time? It's that everything is around the expertise and the outcome you're able to deliver. If you have delivered outstanding outcomes for the first few people in your network who've trusted you and given you the job, that actually is the biggest, I would say that's the biggest way of building your brand. Word of mouth will get around, your network will endorse you. And I can speak about Second Careers, that many of the referrals we are getting are through some of the companies that have come on board as employers. Some of them have been successful in finding candidates from our platform, some have not been. Even the ones who've not been have actually referred other employers to us, because They've trusted the process, they've trusted the expertise, and even though we are only 2 years old, the reference that has come from other people in their
Yes.
in their world actually has mattered a huge amount, right?
Right.
So he said, is what can the individual do? The individual actually can do the best to understand what's the expectation and outcome, apply their expertise, get the testimonials from clients who are happy, ask them to, connect them to their network, give,
Mhm.
be a reference provider. Some of these things are what I think can help to build the book of business further. Yeah.
Right. And Vineet, a follow-up question for you here is more in regard with these global platforms that enable fractional and freelance opportunities. We have heard a lot of people come to us, hey, should I register myself on XYZ platform? I think or maybe Shanti also knows some of these platforms that exist, and they have millions of users, etc. How are those platforms different than perhaps what co-hire does? In which case would those platforms be more relevant, or perhaps a supplementary platform in addition to what co-hire and platforms like second careers do?
So the biggest platform in the world is GLG, right? So there, everybody, I mean, and anybody who's an independent guy knows it, and they register it. And the only difference is there is that everything is remote there. So they get assignments. It's like a school college student getting an assignment. You finish it off, you submit it, and you get paid for it. All right. So
Mhm.
that is a good one for people who are. And again, it is a highly skilled, because you need to be a master in that particular thing. Let's say, for example, you need to be a physicist, for example, or in nuclear sciences or something like that, right?
Hmm.
So you need to be a master, and there are many other. In fact, I've heard that ENY also has a platform for something for them, which they use it internally, right?
Hmm.
So for their internal, roles, independent consulting
Got
roles,
it.
but anybody can go and register there. But see, we are first of all not a virtual platform, right? Because we believe in hybrid, right? Yes, the
Hmm.
companies may assume, like we had cases where there was a company based in Pune, but he hired a fractional CMO based in Bangalore, because they need a highly deep tech marketing guy, and they were okay because they say that we'll pay for his trip to Pune once in a month or once in 2 months, right? So we do it everything for us. These platforms is more of an enabler to come and talk to us, and how we connect the requirement from the company versus the skills that we have in a pool of, as I said, 700 plus more people, right? So the difference there is that the requirements within India is very different from requirement within US. Like for example, we work with a one US company, right? They wanted some skill, which apparently that skill doesn't exist in India, because India doesn't have that kind of a requirement. It is a requirement in US that if you don't have that qualification or certification for a company, you can't get any of the government contracts or projects, right?
Mhm.
Fortunately, I had a person who was with us who was ex Infosys guy, and who had got the certification for Infosys, so that Infosys can get government assignments as well, or public sector companies as well. Now they wanted this person, but the terms are very clear. He's a guy 50 years of age. He's not going to work from 8 o'clock in the night till 5 o'clock in the morning. No, at best he will wake up till 11 or 12 o'clock in the night. After that, he is going to sleep, right? Because this is a very
Mhm.
industry India specific requirement,
Hmm.
right? But US timings doesn't match like this. So
Right.
we had to really work hard to convince, saying that don't worry, even if he's not there for the 5 hours of overlap, there is about 3 or 4 hours of overlap. He will still do the work, and it happened.
Hmm.
It happened because in India, 100% virtual, the requirements are very low,
Hmm.
right? Versus hybrid. And Arjun, I also say that sometimes we also prefer saying that even if let's say there is a company based in Pune or in Hyderabad, we prefer giving a fractional or interim or consulting guy based locally, so that at least once in 15 days he goes and sit with the people. Just gives a lot of confidence,
Yeah.
right? It gives a lot of
Yeah.
confidence. So it is a very demographic thing, but
Mhm.
yes, the requirements can be very similar, the delivery can be different compared to what we and western part of the world is.
No, it's a very well structured, I think, thought that you have shared, and I think it will help people also understand kind of the global landscape here. I have one more question specifically. I mean, Shanti, I would love to understand your perspective on this, given uh, what I'm going to ask is what's the overall gender ratio here? Because I mean, Vineet also at the beginning of the session highlighted the different objectives that women have versus men. What are you seeing? Are there, I mean, one of the things is we know that there are fewer women in leadership roles in India and even globally. Overall the ratios vary, but it's strictly tilted towards male domination. But that being said, how does that impact fractional and freelance landscape?
So I think, and I think the answers are, in my mind, different for fractional versus freelance. Right? In
Okay.
freelance, the percentage of women who are, interested in freelance opportunities is higher than the percentage of women who are interested in fractional. And the reason is very simple. Fractional expects you to be part of the leadership team coming part time, which could be, 2 days or 3 days a week. And many times, a woman who wants that flexibility is not happy with that structure of 2 or 3 days in a week. So, therefore, the percentage of women in like freelance is likely to be higher than in fractional. But a platform like Second Careers, where we are actually saying people who are restarting their careers can also find opportunities, and some of them could also be full time opportunities. We're seeing a lot of interest from women because that's where women who are done with that part of their life when they have to take care of young children are coming back. They have
Hmm.
got a body of expertise. They're now trying to repurpose themselves, but they're willing
Hmm.
to work in full time jobs, right? So
Hmm.
that's why we're seeing that the percentage of women is um, higher. Is it much higher? It's like I would say on our platform, we have about 30% women. Right? The average, if you look at statistics today, is 25% women in the workforce.
Hmm.
For most part, we have 30%. And most of them have upwards of 15 years of experience. So definitely it's in the mid to senior level leadership roles. And so there's a lot of interest from women
Hmm.
in these kinds of opportunities. Many are interested in flexible, by the way. It's just that I don't think the market has enough opportunities as yet to fulfill everyone's aspiration.
Right, right. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. Let's go into some of the questions that we are getting from our audience over here. So, I think one, Shanti, you had covered at a high level, but I would love Vineet's thoughts as well on this. Vineet, so the question is from Ganesh, and it is I really like this question. I think it is about how do you establish authority and influence when you're only engaged part time and managing multiple clients and to make a long lasting impact. Firstly, I mean, I want to ask is this even possible? Should you be aiming for creating a long lasting impact? And while you're managing multiple clients, is that even possible? And if so, then how?
So Arjun, so I'll answer this question to Ganesh. First of all, don't go overboard by taking many clients, right? When is
Mm,
your see, you can take more number of clients when you're consulting role because you're just there for consulting. You are just sharing your way of how to manage the things. But when you're in fraction and you have a responsibility of doing the delivery, in our Kuhar there is a rule: we will not give you more than two assignments at a time, right?
mm,
And I have myself been a fractional role. I can tell you beyond two is a overkill. You will start messing
mm,
up, right? Because your brain will not be able to switch as fast when you go to a different organization. Number one. So be careful. Don't go overboard because it may happen that before you start, you have a bad day because the name spreads very, very fast in this industry, right? Very
mm,
fast. Point number two, how do you establish your authority? First of all, this is a short world, right? Companies are not engaging with you for 1, 2, or 3 years. It's you have to assume that you're a doctor. You're going to diagnose a problem. You're going to do a treatment and monitor the treatment. When the patient is happy, the doctor is out, right? So that is how you have to treat yourself. However, if you're able to deliver efficiently without any friction, right? See, one of the things in fractional and interim role is that companies expect you to be on ground from the day one. They will not give you time to adjust or learn and unlearn whatever it is, right? But if a company is happy, you may use that as a leverage to get a testimonial from the company, and if and if that works out well, then you will have not many elements to market yourself, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
the only way to establish the authority is make sure that you have to work like this. You cannot be, when you went inside the organization, you have to only work on that problem statement. Uh, don't get influenced by other factors, right?
Hmm.
We have been very clear when we tell to our fractional expert that when you go to the organization, if they are asked you to do something else which has not been which was not initially designed, say no.
Mm.
Otherwise, what will happen is, companies will feel that he's not doing the job properly. So if you're asked to manage, let's say, for example, digital marketing, for example, as a fractional expert, don't go to the offline marketing, even if you have a knowledge. Probably just tell them how to do it and walk aside. Because the moment you get into it, then the company will expect to also do that and prove yourself, which means that you're spreading too far.
Right. You want to be more targeted and
More
focused.
targeted. See, when you are in employment, you are asked to do 10 other things, you can't say no. The good thing
Hmm.
in fractional, you can say no, and
Hmm.
companies don't mind it.
That's
And
valid.
and when if there is any friction, then we step into it and saying that, sir, these were the KPIs and KRIs that were agreed on. Now you are deviating. So this will not be able to be done in fractional. You have to convert this into interim, or you have another fraction.
Right. I mean, the scope creep that typically
Yeah. So
happens.
this
I
is
think
how
we
you
have seen
establish your
that.
authority.
Right. No, valid points. I think, Vineet, thanks for sharing that. I feel like we should move on to another question here that we have, which is from, I believe, Manish. And his question is interesting. Outside of tech and HR, which industries have potential for fractional consulting, like real opportunities? And I think real can be in quotes here. I think what he's trying to understand is there enough market appetite and is there enough money involved for people who are targeting opportunities outside of tech and HR? Or is it mostly a pipe dream that, hey, you will get one thing here or there, but the market is not mature enough or the money is not good enough? Um, Either of you can go first. I mean, Shanti, if you have an
Yeah.
understanding of the overall market, please feel free to
No,
share it.
I think finance is a huge area of opportunity here for fractional
Hmm.
and independent consulting roles. Tech still dominates, I think, but finance and the second area that comes to mind is marketing. It's evolving and reshaping very very quickly. People don't need a full time digital marketer, but they will need somebody to come and run campaigns for them, right? So marketing is another area which lends itself to fractional and more likely project based or independent consulting roles. Yeah, so these come to mind immediately. Arjun, and Vineet has much more experience, so you could
Yeah.
share some more on that. Yeah.
Yeah, Vineet, please.
Yeah, I mean, whatever Shanti ma'am has said is fine. These are marketing, finance. They are very easier bet, right? And fortunately, there is enough and more supply also available there. But the upcomings are cybersecurity. Not many people are there. Thing, and smaller companies don't need a full-time cybersecurity guys. Second is product management, right? Third
Hmm.
is sales, right?
Hmm.
Just by having 20 people sales member team, you still not be able to get as many revenue as you thought unless you have a very talented and highly experienced chief sales officer who
Hmm.
knows pre-sales, post-sales, and actual sales, right? He will directly. So these are the new upcoming thing. Tech, I would say, is a very tough field because a lot of companies in our experience are not very open to having fractional because of the clear privacy issue, because they say that what we are working on stack and all that may get go outside or whatever it is, or may get diluted. It takes
Hmm.
really good convincing from our side, but yes, it is not easy to crack,
That's
right?
actually counterintuitive. I've always felt that tech companies are at the forefront of most,
so
lenient HR practices and, these freelance and fractional models. Is that
So
not the case?
Arjun, no. So Arjun, what the most of the tech companies, they will outsource the whole product management to a vendor rather than hiring a thing. So let's say if I'm
Hmm.
building a stack, right? One of the stacks is very common stuff like an app. They say, "Yeah, just give it to a vendor, he will get it done."
like
Why
an
should I?
agency or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right?
that.
Because see, what happens is it's very difficult to like. So, for example, for us, it becomes very thing. A solutions architect with 25 years of experience. I don't know whether he qualifies as a CTO. He doesn't.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
he's a very tech, matlab, highly, tech guy. So the
Right.
tech requirements are very, very complex, very, very different, right? So it is a tough thing. I'm not saying it is growing up. It will be a tough thing because obviously there is a huge vacuum in terms of right talent from
Hmm.
the space. But
Yeah.
other thing that I also want to touch about is the money part. You know, a lot of people I would want, not this is a information and you should absorb that. See, when you are in employment, your 30-35% goes out. It doesn't come to
Right.
your pocket, right? Whereas when you are independent fractional, there is a law called presumptive income tax, which gives you the benefit wherein as so technically your currently 12 lakhs per annum is tax free as per the new tax laws, right? Under presumptive income tax, 24 lakhs is tax free,
Hmm. Okay. And so
right?
mostly these fractional roles qualify for that?
Yes, all. So presumptive income taxes, you should be a professional income, not a salaried income. So technically,
Hmm.
up to 50 lakhs of professional income in a year, only 50% is taxable. So if you are earning as a professional income for 40 lakhs,
Hmm.
so only 20 lakhs is taxable.
Interesting. Very
And government
interesting.
will not ask you anything. You're so out of 20 lakhs, 12 lakhs is tax free. So you pay taxes on 8 lakhs compared to 40 lakhs of salary. So this is an advantage where you actually earn the same amount
Hmm.
as you think, provided you take care of your good taxes. And obviously, and
Yeah,
everybody
there
should
could be
have
situations where you're working less but earning net you're
as
earning
equal
more,
as equal, yes. But
or
obviously,
as equal.
I
Yeah.
would always advise one thing. I always say to everybody, more on a social aspect. The moment you jump from a full-time employment to independent, first thing before even you think about it, take a medical insurance for your family
Hmm.
because the
Yeah.
company cover will not be valid. And if you don't have it, because you not up until 2025, you never thought of it because companies, giving you insurance, and a lot of people make this mistake,
Yeah.
right?
No, valid
And
point.
we in our platform, we are contemplating finding a solution where anybody who works for us as a fractional interim consulting, we will also provide him a medical insurance from our side. So we are also working on that things to make it more,
That's
easy,
wonderful, actually.
right?
And I
We
feel
help.
like there are good startups that I know of, Vineet. Maybe we can talk offline,
Yeah,
which
sure,
help
sure,
provide
sure, sure.
health
Because
insurance.
see, one of the things is in the group insurance, you have to be an employee, and we don't have any employees in our organization these days,
Right. Yeah,
right?
you will
So,
need some unique, flexible
yeah,
model which
yeah.
is tailored to
And we
you.
also help in tax planning for the consultants or the people who are associated with us so that they
Right.
save on taxes, which is ethical and legal. We don't do any other stuff. So, these are the
Right.
softer benefits. We also one of the things that we mentioned is the fact that there have been two bad debts where company has not paid us, but we paid to the expert from our pocket because they were
Hmm.
not at fault. Why would
Hmm.
they penalize? That's where we come into the picture, right? We are supposed to be the insurance for them, right? If the company is not
Hmm.
paying them despite of the fact, if if the expert is at fault, then obviously he will get penalized, but otherwise we have paid it.
Hmm.
Like for
That
example,
makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's
uh,
why you have a middleman there, right? Like you
yes,
need a
yes.
middleman for
Like for
these kind of
example,
situations.
the latest one, we had a fractional CFO. His mother expired, so he had to go and take a 15 days off. Company refused to pay. We paid
Hmm.
it from our pocket. I mean, that's the least I can do for these
Yeah.
people.
No, makes sense. Vinny, thanks for sharing all of this. I think it's really beneficial to the audience. I'm cognizant of time. I know we have shot beyond. There's one last question, and actually, it's funny that I was thinking of this question myself when somebody in the audience has asked this. Would you have time, Shanti and Vinny, just for one last question? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So the question is from Anand, and literally this was on my mind because we have touched upon so many times the fact that hey, you need to be targeted, you need to position yourself very specifically for one type of role. And the one that we see a lot coming to pivot for help on transitions, including fractional, is strategy, operations, more broad corporate development oriented roles, wherein your specialization is that you are a generalist. I mean, I know it's counterintuitive to say that, but this, in a way, what you're good at is perhaps having that wide range of skills and being able to plug yourself into different type of roles, especially helpful for certain startups who can't afford to have a specialist for every single role out there. So is that something that you see opportunities for, more strategy, or sometimes they're even known as, let's say, founders office roles, chief of staff roles? Shanti, we'll start with you.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that chief of staff role is picked up a lot in the market, but I don't see these as fractional or consulting type roles. They are full time roles, and
Hmm.
they are 24 by 7, 7 days, 24 by 7 kind of roles, right? So that's
Hmm.
what these roles are. So I don't see an opportunity for fractional or consulting there. Also, think
Okay.
about the fact that if you want specific strategic input in a domain, you'd rather go to a consulting firm that specializes in that and get somebody on a project basis. So the competition out there for strategic consulting is very, very high. And I
Hmm.
think the only space for fractional or I would even not call use the word fractional. I would say advisory is, one of those models that Vineet also referenced, where somebody is really an expert in an area, has got several years of experience, and consults to the founder in a startup, but is a general consultant to the startup founder, general
Hmm.
advisor to the startup founder, and those are few and far between. I think those roles. So that's my view, but Vineet may have a
Okay.
different
And
perspective.
yeah, Vinit, please go ahead if you have any thoughts on this.
Yeah, so there are two aspects to it, and I definitely echo what Shanti ma'am has said, that you have to see the role. One is whether you need 24 by 7 mind space, even if you're not physically present. So chief of staff is more of a mind space game, right? So for
Hmm.
example, imagine a scenario where a founder needs him, and this guy is he's doing some other assignment sitting in some other company's office. Then he will not be
Hmm.
able to answer it immediately, right? So we have to be very cognizant of these kinds of roles. So I totally 110% agree. These kind of roles does not qualify to be a fractional, and we will not even advise any company to even look at that point, right? If it requires more of a mind space role, right?
Hmm.
Regarding the strategy part, again I will come back to the space that you have to be domain expert. What kind of a strategy and what industry strategy you are, because the strategy will also differ from industry to industry, right? Yes, as we speak, we are working on two inquiries like this where they need a manufacturing company. It's a listed company in Bombay Stock Exchange. They're looking for a strategy guy because they want to grow from X amount of revenue to 10x revenue in the next 5 years. And how do they do it? So they want
Hmm.
somebody with enough and more experience and work in MNC, because this is an Indian owned company, right?
Hmm.
Right. So technically, it's now they say that it's a kind of a chief strategy officer kind of role or a CEO kind of a role. So yes, to answer your questions, there are kind of these kind of requirements, but
Right.
again, you need to be a industry expert. So
Right.
here the company will see that if you have not worked in that particular industry, so if it is a forging industry, it's a forging industry. It cannot be automotive industry. If it is an
Hmm.
automotive industry, it's an automotive industry. It cannot be a rubber industry.
Hmm.
Although
Got it.
manufacturing may be the same, but they are looking only for that particular, you know,
Yeah, specialized experts within that area. Makes
precise,
sense.
razor sharp
Right.
specialization, not even specialization.
Yeah, and again, I feel like there's definitely more of a bias towards that in the Indian market, as far as my
Oh yes, oh
experience
yes,
goes.
oh absolutely. I totally agree. We have tried many times, but this doesn't go. They feel that they feel that a guy from other industry, even if he has an operational experience, will not know my industry.
Hmm. Yeah, I think, and almost every company feels like that.
Yeah,
We are unique, and it's not
yeah,
going to
yes,
work.
yes, yes, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, both Shanti and Vineet. Thank you for all the insights, all the experiences, lot of do's and don'ts that you have shared. One thing I really liked is, I think everything was rooted based on your learned insights and lived experience, and also that was very practical. I think a lot of the things we shared is going to be useful from day one to the people who joined us. So appreciate all of that, and also really thankful for everybody who joined us today on this platform and spent precious time of your Thursday evening with us. If you are looking for these kind of opportunities, please do check out Second Careers, as well as Co-Hire, where Shanti and Vineet are respectively heading these organizations. I think they could be really, really beneficial for you. And in case you're looking for more full-time transitions as well, that's where Pivot comes in. Feel free to check out our platform too. With that, we'll wrap this up, and I hope everybody has a great rest of the evening. Thank you again.
Thank you,
Thank
Arjun.
you. Thank you, everybody.